Hello, and welcome to Closing the Deal Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Elijah Desmond with Dental Pitch Brokerage, and I have one of my best friends and business partners, Matt Ornstein. How you doing, Matt?
Doing great, Elijah.
Awesome. Well, listen, I am so excited to kick off this podcast, and we're going to kick this podcast off the same with everybody. Everybody wants to get to know you right away, and we're going to get to know people through some music. If you were to take everything that you have worked for your entire life, all your businesses, and you are about to pitch your businesses to a group of buyers, there's a special song that would be your walk-on song before you come onto the stage. And this is the grand finale when you're selling it all. Okay. One song that you would pick and why? What's your walk-on?
Thunder by Imagine Dragons.
All right. That's a good song, but what does it mean to you?
Well, the main message in that song and the lyrics, he just keeps reiterating, never give up on your dreams.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Why am I not surprised? One of the most positive people I've ever met, really. It's an honor to have you as my partner, and it's also an honor to call you one of my best friends. We've got to know each other very well over the past 2 or more years, and it's been a pleasure working together. And I got to tell you, I'm very excited to go ahead and kick off this podcast. And now we have our own podcast. We've been guesting on many people's podcasts, and we say, you know what, we may as well make our own. So, I'm gonna go dig straight in. This is a no fluff podcast. We'll be bringing on many experts, and I thought, you know what, the best expert, the number one expert to bring on here is Matt Ornstein himself. So, can you just, in short, give us your background first? Give us your background, where you come from, and then we'll get into some specifics.
Yeah, sure. I'm 55, and professionally, my background has been predominantly real estate investing and real estate development since I was in my early 20s.
Now, when it comes to Dental Pitch Brokerage, what do you feel are the biggest assets and strengths that you personally bring to the brokerage space?
That's a great question. So I have a tremendous amount of experience with buying and selling, mergers and acquisitions. And one of my biggest strengths is that I actually own a DSO with 71 dental practices. Started with 20. And over the years, I built that to 71. So I've been involved in over 50 purchases and sales of dental practices and going through that whole process.
Awesome. Can you tell the listeners about the team that you have established? And really, it's the team that I walked into. It's kind of like if you have a blended family, right? And you bring the families together, like, I know I walked into like the best family ever, but can you tell everybody about the established team that you come with?
Yeah, absolutely. The three main people are Jason Brown, who's our managing director. And then we have 2 in-house counsels, Herb Brown and Matt Cainard. Herb and Matt are both attorneys. They both have their LLM, which is the highest degree you can get in law. It's basically a PhD in tax. You cannot get a higher degree in the legal profession. And so they're well-versed in negotiations, M&A, contracts, etc., and all the nuances on the tax side as well. And Jason Brown has been in banking and lending and M&A for his whole career. So we have an amazing team.
That's awesome. And I was blessed to come into that. A lot of these people are like, Elijah, how did you get in this space and get all these rock stars on your team? And I got to blame it on this guy right here. His name is Matt Ornstein. It came in this package deal. So they're amazing, and everybody just loves them. Speaking of the M&A experience, can you just tell me the experience specifically that you have in mergers and acquisition and how it shaped Dental Pitch Brokerage?
Yeah. In the dental space, started out with 20 dental practices. And then we've added 51, or maybe a little bit more than that by now. So we, had to go through all that entire process, really, really understand it. And it is a very, very challenging process. It takes a lot of time, and the nuances to buying and selling practices are very, very intricate. So that's just only on the dental side. We have other businesses as well where I have a lot of experience on that side as well. But it's all basically it's basically the same. It's different different books, same chapters. So all that experience, puts us in our group in the perfect position to do, in my opinion, the very best job representing our clients.
Awesome. And so, speaking of Oak Dental Partners, can you share how your time at Oak Dental Partners has positioned you perfectly to excel in the brokerage firm? What lessons and insights do you carry going forward?
Well, myself and our team have an incredibly deep understanding of EBITDA as it relates to the dental industry. We have an high level of expertise on how dental practices are valued by the buyers. And, we're also intimately familiar with and aware of the mathematical tricks that go on when buying and selling practices. So we're able to really dig into all of the financials and the other metrics that a selling practice or group has and make sure that all of the value that should go to the selling dentist does go to the selling dentist, and that there's no money left on the table that the selling dentists deserve to have in their pocket after a sale is concluded.
Awesome. And Matt, you often doctors talk to me about what are they going to do post sale and with their investments and all of this. They have millions of dollars. What are they going to do? And they often talk about real estate. And I'm the first to admit when I don't know something, but I'm also the first to put your name in the hat and say, but I know who does. Matt's got years in the real estate world. And I'd love for you to just kind of let everybody know, you're dive into the real estate background and how it's influence your perspective in the brokerage firm and industry. But this, more than anything, just dive into your real estate background, kind of what you do, where you came from, and you're a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure people would love to hear from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I started in my early 20s, buying and flipping houses. Then I got into developing multifamily, which are apartments and condominiums that were developed and sold. Currently own 2 home building companies, a land development company. We own a construction company, a company that builds very, very large industrial warehouses. They get leased to companies like UPS or Amazon. So just have a wealth of knowledge in the real estate space and a lot of expertise also investing with real estate groups that put funds together that provide outstanding rates of return for their investors. So I know a lot of people in the space that have been around for several decades and deliver consistently phenomenal rates of return to the investors. And what I mean by that is, and you can invest in a good fund, real estate fund with a great company, and you can realistically expect to be making somewhere between 11 and 14% return on your money every single year. And that's a huge return on investment, because if you're in a balanced stock portfolio, stocks and bonds, you're probably looking at 6 or 7% return on your investment per year. So you can double that annual return on investment if you're invested with the right companies that have decades of experience and multi-decade track records. So there's a lot of opportunities. If a dentist sells and gets a multi-million-dollar paycheck, the amount of income that can be earned off of that through some of these private funds and that are offered by really good real estate companies, you can make double the income that you would make versus being in a stock and bond portfolio.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that at some point we'll end up bringing you back in as a guest on the podcast to dive deep, because I know you probably could talk about this for hours with people. Matt, can you tell me what is one thing that surprises people about you the most?
Yeah, that's actually an easy one because I've heard it. I've heard it hundreds of times. The number one thing that surprises people is, and they'll tell me after knowing me for 6 months or a year, the number one thing that people tell me is, I'm absolutely like blown away by how nice you are. What a nice person you are. So when people meet me originally, I don't know why, because I'm always nice to people, but they always come back to me later, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later, after interacting with me many, many times. And the number one thing they tell me is, you're one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And you're always willing to share every bit of knowledge that you have for free.
Yeah. And I can break that down for you nicely as well. And for the people that are watching, Matt, let's just call it what it is. You are extremely successful, and a lot of people look up to you. And a lot of times when people meet successful people, they're not always kind or nice or willing to share their knowledge freely. And you show up the same every single time. You make people feel comfortable. You meet people right where they're at. You break things down in terms that people can actually understand. You don't talk over people. You make things simple to understand. And if somebody doesn't understand you, that's happened for me multiple times. What do? You just tell them in a different way. You break it down in a different way. You meet them where you're at. So I am not surprised that is the number one most shocking thing people think or say or surprised by you, because I have experienced that myself. And while we're on that topic, I think it's very important to know, who's behind the scenes and who owns, the business and as part of the podcast. And I think out of all the things that you have as far as your accomplishments and all that you've done, and of course you answered those questions because I asked them, but what I didn't say is about the amazing human and amazing heart that you have. Everybody that's watching, I just want to tell you a quick story about Matt. I called Matt up when I was in Iceland about 2 weeks ago, and I told him that I'm, basically raising money for a nonprofit organization that I have been volunteering for 5 years now, and it's all about giving kids that are underserved the ability to go shopping for Christmas at Walmart. And these kids that are shopping for Christmas, they're all given $100, and they go and they get presents, they get gifts, and they wouldn't have been able to do that because they're not in the right financial position to do that. And Matt said, well, Elijah, how many kids did you have last year there? I said 100 kids. And he basically said, well, I'm going to write you a check so everyone is taken care of, and write you a check for 100 kids. So just like, it's not a little thing. It's a really big deal. Like, it's one thing to make an impact on one person's life, but when you can make an impact on 100 people at a time, like, that just speaks volumes about you, man. And there's many other things that you've done, but that's something recently. The other thing that got me the most was when I found out that you actually took over 60 kids through college, meaning you issued a check so these kids can go in college in the United States and come out debt-free as a college scholarship for over 60 kids that put them to college. That is one of the most amazing things that I've ever heard. Not to mention hundreds of kids paying for their surgery to have cleft palate repair and cleft lip repair. So anyways, Matt, I think that is the most important piece of all, outside of business, your heart. I've always told people that, like, I really don't care about the business that you have. I care about your heart. And if I like you as a person, I'm probably going to like your business too. And so I just want people to know kind of who they're dealing with and who they're working with. Love you and appreciate you as a partner. And you bring so much value into our industry. Speaking of donations and giving, you also released a new book recently. And that new book, if anybody goes and purchases the ebook on Amazon, all the proceeds are going to dental students and college students, which I think is another amazing thing. But let's not get too into the book, because we're going to talk about that on the next episode. But can you flash that book? Do you have that book around that you could show everybody? Look at that. Can you just quickly tell us, high level in a minute, about the book?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called the Dental EBITDA Handbook. It's a clear explanation of what EBITDA is and how EBITDA affects the value of a dental practice when the dental practice is sold. The book is super short, and the font is huge. I mean, I intentionally made the font really, really big. Um, the average person can read this book in less than 15 minutes. And all the books that I had, read about EBITDA when I was trying to learn about it were like 250 pages long and so boring. And I'm like, man, someone could explain all this in like 10 minutes if they wanted to. So most of the dentists that I talked to, they might have heard about EBITDA, but they didn't understand what it was. Not surprisingly, because there are really no business schools, business training, and dental school, most dentists haven't heard of EBITDA. So I wanted to write a book that someone could read very quickly, understand exactly what EBITDA is and why it's so important to understand EBITDA, because it directly affects the sales price of a dental practice when it gets sold. So I just wanted to do that just as really as a nice gesture to help people learn something that otherwise they'd have to read a horrifically boring book that would take them about 10 or 15 hours to read.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, I know that many of our guests are going to go out and get your book. They'll probably want to listen to the episode 2 first before they go get the book, but many of our guests will want to get the book. You can get the book at dentalpitchbrokerage.com. All right. Now everybody knows the man behind Dental Pitch Brokerage, Matt Ornstein. And now we're going to actually swap seats. I mean, not really, but we're swapping seats. And Matt, now you get to interview me, the host of Closing the Deal.
All right, it sounds great. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. So, welcome to your own podcast. This is going to be fun. I'm going to start off the same thing with you, Elijah. If you had to pick your walk-on song that kind of summarizes your life, what would that mean? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, hands down, it's very easy to me. The artist is Drake, and the walk-on song is called God's Plan. And the reason why I'm obsessed with the song is for one main reason. It's because of the music video. So Drake and another artist had this competition going on who can give the most. And the other artists, they basically gave X $1,000 out to people that needed it. Drake, what he did was he actually wrote his check, cashed it, brought it to the bank, brought $1 million. So he took $1 million, went down to Miami, and he gave it back to people that were underserved. He went into grocery stores and not well served areas. He closed the door. He told all of the clerks, the cashier, to close the door. Don't worry, he was not robbing the grocery store. Instead, he was telling all of the moms and kids in there to fill up their carts. Everything was taken care of from him. He gave people new cars. He also went to underserved areas where there was homeless, and he didn't just give them like $100 bill. He gave them like a giant stack of hundreds. He went to schools and gave back tens and thousands of dollars to the schools. And after I seen that video, that was like my favorite walk-on song ever. I probably walked onto that song at least 25 to 30 times since the songs came out. It's just something amazing about giving back and giving purely. And for those of you who don't know what purely giving means, I'll tell you what it is. When you're giving to somebody, you can give and expect something back. And that's not giving purely, right? Like even thinking like at one point, somebody's going to do something for me since I gave to them. Giving purely means that you are giving because it feels good in your heart and you're giving to give a good person, to be a good person. And what you get back is that feeling that I changed a life, that I helped somebody. That is what giving purely is. And that's what Drake did in that music video. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Great answer. All right. I'm going to jump into, your roots and background. So, Elijah, let's just start with your background. Where do you come from? How did your upbringing shape the person that you are today?
Yes. So I came from beautiful state of Ohio. I am a Buckeye. OH, for the people that are listening, they're screaming IO. That's our little chant that we do. I was raised very unique. I was raised on a really big farm, and with cows and thousands of chickens and horses and baling hay, and it taught me about hard work. And on the weekends, I went to my dad's, and at my dad's, it was in the city, and in the city, it was completely different than the farm. So I got to see a lot. I like to say I went from the farm to the projects in the same day. I had an amazing upbringing from 4 different sets of families, all at different levels, socioeconomically, and I got to see everything. And I'm so grateful for that upbringing. It did shape me to the person that I am today. Another interesting thing about me and my upbringing is I actually have a learning disability. And I was actually afraid to tell the world in dentistry that I couldn't read. But since I have been young, when I say young, entered elementary, I went to the special kids trailer to learn how to read. The thing is, I can read you a book out loud, but what I can't do is tell you anything that I told you or that I read. So I cannot remember anything that I read from a standpoint of a book. Now, what I can do is communicate with people well. So since I was not able to read and learn, I got really good from with learning directly from the author, directly from the teacher, directly from the people that I wanted to learn from. And I'm going to tell you, when it comes to learning, you get really good at listening. A lot of people like to talk in the entire conversation and not listen at all. I got really good at listening with people and communicating. And that's really what shaped me to be who I am today. And so I actually graduated from high school early, even with my learning disability. I went to college I got accepted to college at 15 years old, went full time to college at 16 years old. And, I was able to get my education pretty early. I went to college 6 years. I got a full ride academic scholarship to The Ohio State University, and I graduated as a dental hygienist that practiced in air conditioning, and moved to the beautiful islands of Hawaii. Once I moved to Hawaii, I found out pretty quickly that I was not meant to be practicing. So my days of practicing clinically were short-lived, and I converted over to entrepreneurship, and that was my first of 20 some businesses that I created. Was a dental staffing agency. That dental staffing agency was the first of many. And here we are today. What a journey since 2009, since I've graduated. But that's kind of the backstory. I did move back from Hawaii. I moved to Las Vegas, where I met my beautiful wife, Kat. And we now have 2 beautiful little girls, a 5-year-old and 9-year-old, and reside here in South Florida.
All right. Love hearing that story again. It's beautiful. All right, let's talk about first impression. So why don't you take us back to the first time we met at Dykema a few years ago, and
Yep.
what stood out about that moment, and how did it set the stage for where we are now?
Yes. First, I will never forget the moment in Dykema before I even checked in. Okay, so there's registration. If you've been to Dykema, you're listening to the story, you're like, oh my God, and I can envision it. I got into check-in at registration, and before I got to check-in, there's this, tall, nice-looking guy that comes up to me, super full of energy, and says, hey, nice to meet you. I've been, following you on social media for a while, and I got to tell you, I love the stuff that you put out. It's really good. It's extremely positive. The only other person that I know that's more positive than you is one other guy. And I said, who's that? And he sticks out his hand and goes, nice to meet you. I'm Matt Ornstein. And that's you. That was when we met. And I remember you pulled out a business card. And I thought I had a cool business card. I mean, my business card is like really thick metal. It's a metal card. It's got all kinds of bright writing. It's fun, just like me. And you're the only person to this day that I think has a better business card than me. And it's a coin. It's a thick coin, bigger than a quarter, thicker than a quarter, almost the size of a $50, but thicker. And it says, dreams become realities. Is that what it says?
Ace your dreams.
Chase your dreams. Chase your dreams gives me that card. You know, he only has a few of those per event, so I felt special already. And you know, we first start talking and we get into nothing about business. It was all about sports and wrestling. I was a past state wrestler, and I got my career taken from me earlier. And Matt had a wrestling career as well, Mr. Golden Glove champ as well, just all around athlete. And we just completely hit it off. And he said at some point we should find some time to sit down and talk because we have a lot of stuff that we could do together. And you know, my thought always is listen, there's no better time than now. Matt and I sat down on the couch by the escalator, and we spoke for, I would say, 1 to 2 hours. And it was just like, you know, when you meet somebody and it was that feeling like, man, when you know, and the rest is history. And the really cool thing is a lot of people talk a lot of like what they're going to do, you know, a vision that they have or a goal or this is what we should do. And I had never met anybody who actually fulfilled every single one of the things that he said he was going to do prior to me, Matt. So that's the story I remember, Matt. It might be a little different for you, but that's what I have in my mental for sure.
That's how I remember it. It was great. It was great to meet you because I've been following you on social media for a while, and when I saw you, I was super, super excited to chat with you. All right, well, let's get into the birth of Dental Pitch Brokerage, the company that you and I co-founded together. I'd love everyone to hear what inspired, you know, from your perspective, what inspired you to start Dental Pitch Brokerage, what sparked your interest in creating it, and what problem were you looking to solve?
Absolutely. So, you know, 3 years ago, the world was, you know, very different than it is today, or 4 years ago, I should say. You know, before Dental Pitch Brokerage, in 2021, what was created was a company called Dental Tank. And essentially we had, you know, 100 companies that pitched me their business. I picked 25 of them. And I had about 50 plus strategic investors that pitched to me why they should be on the stage. Now, mind you, when I started this, I had zero clue about investments, about anything at all like I know today. However, I figured the best way to know and to learn about investments and whatnot is being around the right people. So I put the right people in the room. I picked 8 strategic investors, and I picked 25 companies, and they basically pitched their business to these investors. And of the 25, 7 of them got funded on the first event. And it was such a blessing to see these people's lives completely change. Now they're able to go and fulfill their biggest dreams because now they have the capital to do so. And it's funny because for me, I'm like, well, man, at the time I, you know, owned Smiles at Sea, and Smiles at Sea had to go out and get an EDIL loan, right? Talk about being vulnerable on the first podcast, right? If we wanted to stay afloat, we needed to get an EDIL loan. And I'm like watching all my other friends raise all of these millions of dollars. And I'm like, I'm over here on the struggle bus with $150,000 EDIL loan. I'm like, man, I need some help here. So anyways, I created that to ultimately help other people because I knew what I was going through. I was in a financial crisis and I needed help. And I had these great ideas, but I had nobody to teach me or to get my back and help me in that time. So anyhow, that happened. It was a complete success. We had many other events after that. We raised over $10 million for various companies. And, you know, we'll say about 75% along that journey, I met you at Dykema. And we got to talking, and, you know, it's pretty cool when you could tell somebody an idea and they could say like, yeah, we can do that. And you're a genius for thinking about it. And I have the team to support it. And financially, anything you can picture and imagine, we'll do that because I believe in you. And that was the turning point for the old Dental Tank. Now it is Dental Pitch Brokerage. And I said, Matt, I'm meeting so many dentists throughout the entire country that want to sell their practice. How about instead of us having the old dental pitch where we're really helping people with early stage investment, how about we go to the end of the road and help people to sell their life's work and sell dental practices? And you didn't like think about it. You didn't say like, hmm, I don't know, Elijah. Like that seems like a tough lift. I remember the words. I was at like, I believe Sorona World in Las Vegas. I call you. You answer because you always do. And you were like, Elijah, you are a genius. Yes, let's do it. That sounds so good. And you've had my back ever since. It's been awesome. It's been a journey, a fun journey, and we're able to literally change the lives of so many dentists because of it.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. Just quick aside, one of the things that gives me the most joy in life is helping other people. It's definitely my top 2 or 3 things in life, to help other people succeed in whatever their goals might be. So that's one of the drivers in my life. All right, let's talk about the impact and goals with Dental Pitch. I had 2 questions, but I'm going to just kind of combine it. But from a larger viewpoint, what kind of impact do you hope to achieve as co-owner and co-founder of Dental Pitch Brokerage?
Yeah, I think it's making people's dreams come true as the big picture. If you work your entire life, and you get to the point where you have another, say, 3 to 5 years or more, but say 3 to 5 years where you want to work and you work your butt off to create this amazing empire of a dental practice, there is no better feeling than to have somebody trust you to take them to the finish line and sell their practice. The impact that has on the industry, on a person, you have literally changed their life at the end. You didn't change their whole life along the journey, but you were that last person to ultimately give them what they were working for this whole time. And when you can put, $1 million, $10 million, $30 million in somebody's pocket, it changes their life forever. And now they get to go to work and just practice. Like they're going to work. They're going to their business. They're going to work and they're just doing dentistry. As Paul Goodman would say, just dentisting. They're just dentisting, right? And they're practicing. They're doing what they love. They don't have any worries financially about money ever anymore, about running the actual business. They have no worries anymore. And to me, that is what's most impactful for Dental Pitch Brokerage.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that I've seen time and time again are people that have built businesses and they just stayed in the business and stayed in the business. And especially in dentistry, and they get to a certain age. I know this sounds crazy. They get to a certain age and they're not able to sell their practice because they didn't sell it soon enough. Most buyers are going to want the selling doctor to stay on for a couple years at least and help make a smooth transition. And I mean, I know of more practices than I can count where the doctor said, all right, I'm making an age up, but I'm 72, I'm 75. For various reasons, I cannot work anymore. I don't want to work anymore. I want to sell my business and I'm done. I'm gone. Well, you're not going to find a buyer under that scenario. So it does, in those situations, makes me sad that someone's worked their whole life. And had they done a little bit of planning or sold their business 5 years earlier, instead of walking away with nothing, they could have walked away with millions and millions of dollars, which would have been of great benefit to themselves and their employees and their family. So, we're on the same page on that. Here's an interesting one. If you have a little bit more time, let's dive into your professional background. How did being a hygienist and a dental DJ, which you're great at, shape your approach to business and entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. First, let's just call it what it is. I remember when we first started working together, and you had people coming up to you and saying, "Did you know that Elijah's like just a dental hygienist, or he's a hygiene influencer, or what's he going to do with you?" Or Did you know that he's just this DJ? I absolutely love that. First off, I am a proud dental hygienist that graduated from the Ohio State University, and I understand dentistry. I understand what it's like to work in a dental practice. I understand the dynamics of the business within the dental practice. I also understand science, so I could talk the talk. I got an opportunity after I stopped practicing to speak in about 50 cities for Straumann, top dental implant company. What did I speak on? Biologics, implant maintenance, case presentation. I got an opportunity to work for the largest aligner company, not work for, but speak for rather, in about 50 cities. The name of that company is Invisalign. I got to talk about tooth movement and case presentation and culture and happiness. Because I was a hygienist, it was easy for me to go in and coach dental practices. I coached dental practices from 2010 to 2018. And the time that I got to coach dental practices all over the country, I got to learn how to grow their EBITDA. I got a chance to learn how to make their culture amazing and make everybody get along and in harmony. And that's one of the most difficult things that this industry is suffering from. We have a people problem, and I would fix the people problem. And so I own being a hygienist. I still have an active license in the state of Hawaii. I go back to Hawaii about once a year. The only reason I keep my license is so I can do dental mission trips and go on missions overseas to help people who are less fortunate. I believe in treating everybody kind, with respect, and meeting people right where they're at. Something I'll never do is talk over anybody's head. I'll get down on their level with your education and respect you. We're all people, and you get to celebrate like your biggest thing that's ever happened in your life, and I like to be a part of it. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think you and I are, definitely on the same page as far as the way business can be done. There's no rule that says selling your business and getting the best price and best terms has to be an unpleasant, miserable process. That is not true. You can have fun along the way as long as you have a great team around you supporting you. The process of selling your dental practice or dental group can be extremely profitable, and the process can be enjoyable. It's not going to be perfect in terms of, there's always some bumps in the road, especially when you get to the last 10 yards of negotiating, which we love to do on behalf of our clients. But overall, the process, it can be an enjoyable process, and you can still end up with the very, very best result. There's no need to have it be miserable or unpleasant. You can achieve the same result or better and still have an enjoyable process along the way. So that's the thing that really excites me most about Dental Pitch Brokerage. We have an absolutely amazing team, highly experienced. We love what we do. The level of expertise is off the charts. And, one of the things that I absolutely love from my end is helping other people achieve their dreams and helping the selling doctors get the absolute best price and best terms for their business, which they have spent, who knows how many years. It could have been 5 years. It could have been 30 years building that business, and they deserve to have the best exit possible and have the experience to be one where at the end of it, they can, when they get that big check in their bank account, they can call us up and say, Matt and Elijah, that was a really, really beautiful experience. You guys over-delivered, and, thank you very much. And really, the pleasure's all mine, Elijah. And I know it's yours because I love to help other people succeed. Just how I'm built.
Awesome. So listen, everybody, now you get to hear a little bit more about the podcast and everything that we're going to be bringing into the podcast with industry experts. Who are going to be the guests? Who can you expect on here? This is the industry experts. There's no fluff. These are people that live this stuff. You're going to get so much knowledge and education. You can look at it as your university on selling your dental practice. And I hope that you get the most out of it. We're going to be talking on here about understanding the DSO landscape, which one is right for you, or is a private practice buyer right for you. We're going to talk about risks and upsides. We're going to have dentists on here that have actually sold their practice, talking about, what is the story, telling their actual story about what happened to them, right? Not what they heard about their friend, but like what actually happened to them and their story. We're going to have experts on here to discuss things such as the quality of earnings. We're going to talk about common red flags, how to address them, what to look for. Talk about the role of what a broker does in advocating for you as a seller along the way. And, we're going to have some famous dental superstars on here, like Brian Kaleo, for example, right? Or Amon Kaur. We're going to have amazing people that are on here that are the experts in each area. And it's really going to be your playbook that you can go and prepare yourself for a sale. So I'm very excited to be your host. I'm really looking forward to the next episode, the masterclass on EBITDA. We'll see you soon.